100 stations on Pacific and NPR and low-power FM and college and community radio stations, on public access TV and PBS TV stations, and both TV satellite networks. On Dish Network, Channel 9415 Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, and on DirecTV, Channel 375. And we're video and audio podcasting at Democracy Now! Our headlines are also available in Spanish for any radio station to take as over 250 are. We're talking with the mothers of the 3 hikers who've been held in the Iranian prison, the Evin prison, for the last 10 months, since last July, when they strayed over the border from Iraq into Iran. Laura Fattal, mother of Josh Fattal, is with us. Cindy Hickey, mother of Shane Bauer, and Nora Shourd, mother of Sarah Shourd. So let's hear who these young people are. How did Sarah, Nora, end up there that day? Where did she go to school? Where did she grow up?
Sarah went to UC Berkeley. She met Shane and Josh in Berkeley. They've been friends for a while, and Sarah and Shane are a couple. They decided to go to the Middle East for different reasons, but the main reason is because they have a clear political ideology, I would say, which is against the U.S. occupation in Iraq, the U.S. policy in the Middle East. They wanted to document, write about, and experience themselves what that meant to people in the Middle East. When they were in Syria, this is an example, like for instance, when the bombing started in Gaza, these 2 young people, Sarah and Shane, were in the streets with the Syrians demonstrating and asking why aren't the Arab countries helping the Gazans, okay? They're pro-Palestinian. Their friends in Syria are Palestinian. And one of the things we did when I was in Damascus to visit them is that's when Tristan Anderson was shot. So the 3 of us went to see him in Israel, went to see him and support his parents and his family. This is just a small picture of the kind of kids that we're talking about here.
Tristan Anderson was the American.
The American that was shot by the Israeli troops at the Palestinian wall.
When he was photographing protests
right,
at the wall.
Last March.
And he remains in Israel,
He's still
right?
in Israel, still in the hospital,
condition.
brain damaged. Close friend of theirs. That's why we went. So this kind of like fleshes out who they are. They weren't just accidental tourists, you know, etc. They're not just, you know, young hikers that are adventurous people. They're serious political people. They went there with the intention of learning more about Middle Eastern people. Sarah worked with the Iraqi Student Project there, which is a project that directly affects Iraqi refugees that are in Syria by helping them get their university educations back. This is what they were doing. So to us, it's kind of like a deep irony with their politics being what they are, that they're being held in Iranian prison for this long.
So how did they end up on the Iraq border?
Sarah was teaching English in Damascus, and she had a week off. They went on vacation. They went to a place recommended by their friends in Syria, a tourist attraction. They were hiking. They didn't know where they were, and they were detained.
So you see Sarah. You're with her for, what, 1 day or 2?
We had 2 days. We had 6 hours one day and 4 hours the next. It went by like a second. You know, we weren't sure that at the end of the first day that we would see them again the second day. Everything was always very vague. It was always in flux. We didn't know. We had to wait a lot. But it was wonderful to see these guys. I mean, they haven't really had any contact with the outside world except for 3 brief visits with the Swiss since this all started. So this was overwhelmingly hopeful, encouraging for them.
Their lawyer?
They have not seen their lawyer. We briefly got to see him for the first time there.
He's Iranian?
He's an Iranian lawyer.
Cindy, before we talk about what's happening now with him in prison, talk about Shane Bauer, your son.
Well,
where was he born?
He was born in Minnesota, lived in California in the Bay Area for many years with his father. Went to UC Berkeley. Again, you know, by the way, Shane and Sarah, I have to say, met organizing protests against the invasion of Iraq. So Shane's made it his work at this moment of his life to investigate and write about the wrongdoings of the U.S. government in consideration to the Middle East. He's very passionate about informing people about what's happening in the world.
So he went to UC Berkeley, and then what?
He went to UC Berkeley, and then he traveled to Damascus, Syria, to again base himself in the Middle East so he could investigate and write about some of the things that he doesn't agree with about U.S. policy in conjunction with the Middle East.
Laura, talk about your son, Josh. Where was he born?
Josh was born in Needham, Massachusetts, and when he was 2, he moved with us, the whole family, to Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. And he grew up there, was president of the high school class, Cheltenham High School, year 2000. And then he went to college, and he went to college at UC California, Berkeley, and graduated in environmental economics and policy, and has taken environmentalism very, very seriously. And after graduation, he worked at Aproveccio, a sustainable living organization that's outside of Eugene, Oregon, and he ran the internship program there for 3.5 years. But as an undergraduate at Berkeley, he did a study year abroad with the International Honors Program, which was about globalization. He went around the world with that group based out of Boston, actually, Boston, Massachusetts, with 30 undergraduates, and they went to countries such as England, India, Philippines, New Zealand, and Mexico, and came home. And so after 3 years at Aproveccio, he decided to apply for a teaching fellowship with IHP, the International Honors Program, and he did receive the opportunity to work for them for 1 semester, the spring semester of 2009, and he was had this fellowship, and he then traveled with 30 undergraduates to the countries of Switzerland, India, China, and South Africa. The story of Shane and Sarah and Josh overlap. When Josh finished the teaching fellowship in South Africa, comes back to Europe, sees his brother in Europe, and then travels to the Mideast to catch up with Shane and Sarah, who have been living in Damascus for over a year. And he was just visiting them and then coming back and thought he'd spend some time with them. It was 100 degrees in Damascus in July. They all wanted to go on this hiking vacation. They're all eager hikers and very competent and experienced hikers. And this 8-day vacation has turned into a 10-month detention.
I wanted to play a clip. We did this last time too, Cindy, but you were talking about Shane doing reporting, writing about U.S. policy. And this was a clip of, we'll post the whole thing on our website, but of Shane Bauer's piece for Democracy Now! On Iraq.
In 2006, the American military and Iraqi police could hardly enter Baghdad's Dora neighborhood without being peppered with bullets. But in 2007, the United States forged an alliance with its former enemies, offering money and military support in exchange for a promise to fight al-Qaeda. When we entered Dora this week, we found American soldiers laughing with these neighborhood militias. In November 2008, the Americans handed these so-called awakening councils, or sahwas, to the Iraqi government. Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki promised that 20% of the Sahwa forces would be brought into the army or police force, and the remaining would eventually be offered civilian jobs or a pension. But
an excerpt of Shane Bauer's piece. Again, we'll post it at democracynow.org. But now I wanted to turn to Shirin Ebadi. We recently interviewed this leading Iranian human rights lawyer and Nobel Peace Prize winner in our studio, and I asked her about the jailed hikers. Why do you think Iran is holding the American hikers? Do you think they are pawns in something larger? Or does Iran actually think that they are spies, the 2 young men and the woman?
The government of Iran has announced that they are accused of espionage. But I don't believe in that. Because as soon as they stepped into Iran and on the border, they were apprehended. Even if they did have the intention of espionage, they had no time to carry it out because they were apprehended right away. And if Iran believes that in another country they have performed espionage, then that country would be competent to try them. Why has Iran apprehended them? The accusation against these young people if we can say that they have perpetrated a crime, is that they have crossed the border. And pursuant to Iranian laws, there's only a fine to be paid for it, not imprisonment. The government of Iran should not have arrested these people.
Shireen Ebadi, the Nobel Peace Prize winner from Iran. Does this help to have Shireen Ebadi